Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zoe. Thank you so much. Um, Ini, who is our manager of conservation programs, was supposed to be here with us, but unfortunately, she couldn't get a visa. So she wants to say hi.
Hello, WCN family. This is Ini, and I'm speaking to you from SMACON office here in Calabar, Nigeria. I'm really sad that I couldn't make it to the expo this year, but I'm looking forward to future expos. Well, since I'm unable to join you this year, let me go back to the mountains to continue our work. Have fun at the expo. Enjoy. Bye.
When Ini says to go back to the mountains, this is a glimpse of where we walk in southeast Nigeria, Cross River State. This is an amazing landscape holding most of Nigeria's biodiversity. Lots of endangered species, bats, pangolins, gorillas, drill monkeys, lots and lots of endangered species. And we are very fortunate to be involved in protecting this amazing landscape. This is what a typical day for us looks like in the field. You know, lots of fun, lots of laughter, especially when your most important collaborator is your incredible wife. But it's not always this fun. In February 2016, I and Iroro, young graduate students who were deep in the mountains looking for bats with our team. And around 9 p.m., we spotted fire from very far on the other side of the mountains. And we're like, it will never get here, it's so far. An hour after that, we were literally running for our lives. The fire was already in our camp, smoke everywhere. It was chaos. And then we were just trying to grab our most important equipment to run down the mountains. I still remember carrying an action pack, a heavy action pack on my head and running down the mountains, falling over multiple times. After about 2 hours, when we were able to recover and could look up, this was exactly what we saw. And that night was the saddest day of our professional lives. And this was not just because we almost lost our lives, but because this is a few days after we rediscovered the rare endangered short-tailed round-leaved bat, a species that had not been seen, had not been spotted anywhere in the last 45 years. You imagine how devastating this was. Young graduate students who were like, what's going to happen to this amazing scientific discovery? And what's going to happen to our PhDs? Our camp is gone, our site is gone. Then we started to talk to community people, have town hall meetings, focus group discussions, interviews. At first, we were skeptical of community support because these communities were littered with failed conservation projects. But interestingly, they were very excited to talk about fire. Why? Because those fires would typically start from a cocoa farm, spread over to the next farm, and sometimes over 100 farms before it gets to the forest, destroying millions of dollars of livelihoods. So you understand their enthusiasm to find solutions to this problem. But here's the thing. If these fires are used responsibly at the right time of the year, there's no problem. But if it's irresponsible at the wrong time of the year, like this, the risk of spread is very high. I still remember one of those town hall meetings. We're deliberating for a very long time. And then a woman, an eloquent woman, Susan, stood up and literally shut down the discussion. She said, just tell us when to burn. She has this beautiful musical voice, so the entire hall was silent. It was almost magical. And then she went on to tell people how she has witnessed the climate change right in front of her eyes. They used to be able to predict, know when the rains will come and how long the rains will last. And then they could plan their fire management system. But they are no longer able to do that. So she went on to still tell us, just tell us, when do you want us to burn? And this is what we have been doing in this landscape ever since. First, we set up weather stations across communities surrounding the forest to be able to take temperature data, humidity, wind, to be able to advise the farmers on the best time to use this fire. And then we communicate this information using a simple signpost, risk signpost, that says, hey, now is a good time for you to burn, and this time around, it's not a good idea at all to use fire in your farms. Like here when Zoe visited us earlier this year to eat the world-famous Nigerian jollof rice, it was a moderate time to burn. That means burn with caution. And then, on very high-risk days, the community town criers will go out early in the morning before the farmers would leave their houses to remind them that this is a no-burn day.
WCN, bet you. Inkia web new city. Intabelo.
But this time, Pius is just bringing you greetings from the beautiful communities of Buancho in southeast Nigeria. But when they miss this signpost advisories and also miss the reminders from this town criers, we also needed to be ready. And then we raised an army. Iroro is going to tell you how this wonderful group of conservation heroes have been able to save our forests.
Thank you very much. When Ben says we tried to raise an army, he's really talking about the forest guardians that we recruited, trained, and equipped to be able to respond to fires as they happen on farms before they even get the chance to hit the forest. Because what happens is when that fire hits the forest, we're talking about a mountain slope. It just goes up non-stop until the rains arrive. And in fact, the big fire that Ben described that we ran away from in 2016, it burned for 3 weeks until the rains came. So not unlike, very unlike what you have here in California, and you have, big budgets and you can fly planes to put out fires. We don't have that. But these guys and women, they're ready to respond at the source and put it out. And that's exactly what we've been doing. And in fact, what we came up with last year was that they said to us, you know, we could cover more grounds if we have vehicular access. And with support from WCN and through the Pangolin Crisis Fund, we were able to buy motorcycles for these guys and women. And I tell you this, we literally saw a 10-fold increase of how many farms they could cover. Last year, it was barely, a little over 100 farms that they were able to patrol during that, those bad days. But with the bikes, nearly 1,000 farms. Nearly 1,000 farms. Now, when we say we have overwhelming community support, this is what we're talking about. It's a lot of people. And in fact, the chief of chiefs, what we call the paramount ruler of the entire Boki tribe, directly in support of our work. And in fact, he's been asking us to come to this side of the mountain or go to that side of the mountain. He's really our best friend at this point. This is what we mean when we talk about community support. But if community support is great, well, guess what? We've got more news because our impact is in our number. The numbers speak for themselves. I'm glad you find that very encouraging and enlightening, right? But I really want to walk you through this plot. What's going on here is in 2016 when we ran away from that fire, ran for our lives. We weren't responding quite yet. We had about 25 wildfire incidences. That's a lot of wildfire for an area, barely 100 kilometer squares. Sorry, wrong continent. Kilometers, miles. But, 25 wildfire incidences, but that number immediately crashed as soon as we started engaging with the communities, and it went down to 0. And that happened the year after that, 2017, 2018, and 2019. It was sustained until COVID hit us. And with COVID, of course, lockdown restrictions, we couldn't do any of this engagement and working with the local communities. And of course, that number shot up again. And of course, after the COVID restrictions, we went back into these communities, and again, another drastic drop. And that happened for 3 consecutive years. 0 wildfires. And we're really proud of that. But what it tells us is that when we're fighting fires on farms, 0 wildfires in forests. Simple, plain numbers speaking. All right, I don't know. This is WCN. You always get good news, right? So you never tire of good news. So the numbers speak for themselves. I've got more numbers, not in fires, but in bats. In 2016, actually 2014, which is when we started working in the area, the scientific literature said there were, about 10 species in the area. A couple of years of surveys, and we moved that number up to 40 species known from the area. But following that big fire in 2016, that number sort of plateaued. Additional surveys did not add new bats to our list. But guess what? With all of this, success that we recorded with our wildfires, we went back this year and we added new species for the area, but I'm only showing you here 8 new bats for Nigeria as a result. I mean, I want to say it was raining bat species, And that, for us, there might be, a range of reasons combined here and there why we see this pattern, but we really think it's related, at least in some ways, to our fire efforts. And that's a big deal. Now, I'm sure some of you are asking, show us the bats. We want to see the bats. I got you some bats. I mean, isn't that cute? It's like it's ready, it's sleepy, it's ready to be tucked in. And look at that. If you don't think that looks like a bulldog, we need to have a conversation, you and I. And cute bats eating bugs, what's not to love? They save farmers millions of dollars and are useful and very important for human health. But we couldn't do any of this without our core team on the ground, running day and night, almost. Whenever they're in the field, you can be sure it's day and night. That's it. Yeah? And, they inspire us in so many ways and allow us to even expand our program. And in fact, now, we not only put out fires, we're also protecting bats in caves. And in fact, we're actually working towards buying land around a new protected area that we're setting up for one of the new species, one of the new records that we had for Nigeria, which I really shouldn't be telling you this, but new species to science, suspected. And so, but because you're family, you're WCN family, we can't help it. I have to tell you. But in any case, we're working to buy land and to protect the species area. And that's incredible for us. And that's really because of our leadership team. And in fact, because of their dedication and us knowing that the threats that we face in Nigeria is shared also across West Africa. And there are no bats programs for bats in the region, no conservation programs for bats, not for small mammals either. And so we have now started a partnership of about 15 practitioners across the region to set up programs and replicate some of the successes we've had in Nigeria across West Africa. And that's because of our leadership team, and we're really grateful for them. And in fact, in many ways, I really wish Ini and the rest of the team could be here to tell you in their own words how they really feel about partnering with you guys for nature. We're really grateful. And I say we're grateful, but many times I feel like I have lost the words to say so. There are not enough words to describe how grateful we are. But I'm happy Zoe said I would like to study languages, and Nigeria is a bedrock of languages, believe it or not. Google it. We asked our forest guardians to tell you in their own language, and this is the Buki language of the Buki people. Just take a listen.
The forest guardian they want to me to one is SMACON. Ewa me wa at WCN kila. If you know WCN. Achio WCN.
We do it, Achio. Achio.